Hello everyone and welcome to my Beyond the Gates CBS Update 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Fairmont Crest bids farewell to Derek plus Danny lays some harsh truths on Bill. There are some days in Fairmont Crest that change everything. Days when long simmering tensions erupt. Days when secrets begin to crack open. Days when characters find themselves standing at emotional crossroads they never expected to face. And then there are days like this one. Because while the fallout from the plasma ring scandal continues to send shockwaves through the community, the residents of Fairmont Crest are now facing something even more devastating. Saying goodbye to Derek Baldwin. The tragedy surrounding Derek's death has already left scars on nearly everyone connected to him. Some are dealing with guilt. Others are struggling with anger. Many are simply trying to process the fact that someone who was alive only days ago is suddenly gone forever. As friends, family members, co-workers, and loved ones gather to honor Derek's memory, emotions run high. And in true Beyond the Gates fashion, the tears don't stop there. Across town, Danny Dupree Hamilton finally unloads years of frustration on Bill Hamilton, forcing him to confront uncomfortable truths he has spent far too long avoiding. Meanwhile, wedding planning drama explodes when Chelsea and Madison make a shocking decision that leaves Danny completely blindsided. And if that weren't enough, Nicole Dupree finds herself stunned after learning Ted Richardson has already been making major career moves on her behalf without consulting her first. By the end of the day, multiple relationships will be tested, old wounds will reopen, and one surprising realization could put Bill in more danger than he even realizes. But first, Fairmont Crest gathers to say goodbye. Derek's absence is felt before the memorial even begins. The atmosphere at Uptown is heavy. Everyone who enters the venue seems to carry the same expression: disbelief. Even now, after the warehouse tragedy, after the hospital chaos, after all the conversations and tears and painful confirmations, it still doesn't seem real. Derek Baldwin is gone. The reality hangs over every table and every conversation. People speak softly. They embrace longer than usual. They exchange stories. They remember. One thing quickly becomes obvious. Derek touched more lives than many people realized. Some knew him as a firefighter. Others knew him as a friend. Some knew him as a protector. Others knew him as the man who always seemed ready with a joke or a smile. No matter how someone knew him, they all arrived carrying a memory, and today becomes a celebration of those memories. Yet there is one notable absence: Brian, Derek's father. The fact that he isn't present doesn't go unnoticed. Several attendees glance toward the entrance throughout the gathering. Some continue expecting him to arrive late. Others already understand that his grief may simply be too overwhelming. Losing a child changes people. It breaks something inside them. And Brian has already made it clear that he is struggling to process what happened. Particularly when it comes to Jacob Hawthorne. Jacob carries the weight of survivor's guilt. If anyone appears emotionally burdened during the memorial, it's Jacob. From the moment he arrives, there is a heaviness surrounding him. The undercover operation is over. The plasma ring has been exposed. The dangerous mission that consumed so much of his life has finally reached its conclusion. But victory doesn't feel like victory. Not when Derek paid the ultimate price. Jacob knows it. Everyone around him knows it. Even if nobody directly blames him, Jacob clearly blames himself. Throughout the memorial, his thoughts seem elsewhere. Every story about Derek appears to deepen his internal struggle. Every memory becomes another reminder of the man who died while helping bring down a criminal enterprise. At one point, Jacob speaks with Vanessa. Their conversation quickly turns serious. Because despite everything that has already happened, Jacob isn't finished. Not even close. He makes it crystal clear that the investigation is continuing. The warehouse shootout may have exposed pieces of the operation, but many questions remain unanswered. Most importantly, Jacob intends to identify everyone responsible. Every participant, every organizer, every person who profited from exploiting vulnerable people. Nobody gets a pass. Nobody, not even Joey Armstrong. The implication is unmistakable. Vanessa hears it, and she understands exactly what Jacob is saying. If evidence points toward Joey, Jacob will follow that evidence wherever it leads. No exceptions, no personal considerations, no favoritism. The warning hangs in the air long after the conversation ends. Ashley tries to navigate grief. Elsewhere, Ashley continues struggling with emotions she can barely put into words. Losing Derek has shattered her. Even though their romantic relationship had ended, Derek remained an enormous part of her life. Their history cannot simply be erased. Their connection cannot simply disappear. And now she is forced to mourn someone she once believed she might spend her future with. The pain is complicated, messy, confusing. Which is why Grayson's message arrives at a particularly difficult time. His text is simple. He tells her he's keeping his distance. But she's still on his mind. The message reflects the impossible position Grayson now occupies. He cares about Ashley. Yet he also understands that Derek's death has created an emotional barrier that may never fully disappear. Ashley doesn't know what to do with those feelings. Right now, grief dominates everything. Questions about the future feel impossible. Questions about Grayson feel impossible. Even getting through the day feels impossible. So she focuses on surviving one moment at a time. One memory at a time. One breath at a time. Vanessa creates a legacy for Derek. Among the many emotional moments during the memorial, one announcement stands out. Vanessa reveals that she is establishing a college fund in Derek's name. The room falls silent. It's a beautiful gesture, a meaningful one, because Derek spent so much of his life helping others, protecting others, serving others. Now his memory will continue helping future generations. The announcement resonates deeply with those in attendance, especially because it transforms tragedy into something constructive, something hopeful, something lasting. Vanessa's voice cracks slightly as she speaks. The emotion is impossible to hide, and honestly, nobody expects her to hide it. Not today. Today is about honesty. Today is about love. Today is about remembering someone who mattered. And judging by the reactions around the room, Derek mattered far more than anyone realized. Shanice remembers Derek the way he'd want. As stories begin circulating throughout the gathering, Shanice offers one observation that immediately lightens the mood. Derek was a flirt. A huge flirt. The comment generates laughter, exactly the kind Derek would have appreciated, because while grief dominates the day, nobody wants the memorial to become consumed entirely by sadness. They want to remember who Derek really was. And Derek wasn't defined solely by heroism. He wasn't defined solely by tragedy. He was also funny, charming, annoying at times, warm-hearted, human. Shanice's comment reminds everyone of that. For a brief moment, smiles replace tears. And those smiles matter. Because that's how people stay alive after they're gone. In memories, in stories, in laughter, in love. Naomi delivers one of the most powerful tributes. Perhaps no statement resonates more deeply than Naomi's. She doesn't overcomplicate things. She doesn't attempt some grand speech. Instead, she delivers a simple truth. Without Derek, Jacob would be dead. The room grows quiet, because everyone understands exactly what she means. Derek's final actions were heroic. There is no debating it, no minimizing it, no redefining it. He put himself in danger. He stepped forward when others might have stepped back, and ultimately, he paid the price. Naomi's voice carries both gratitude and heartbreak. Gratitude because her husband survived. Heartbreak because Derek didn't. That contradiction defines much of the memorial. Lives were saved, justice was served, yet someone still died, and no amount of victories can erase that reality. The final call leaves everyone in tears. As the service approaches its conclusion, Derek's former firefighting colleagues prepare one final tribute, the ceremonial last call. The moment is devastating. Even attendees who manage to remain composed throughout the gathering begin breaking down. Voices tremble. Eyes fill with tears. The symbolism is overwhelming. A final acknowledgement, a final farewell, a final recognition of a life dedicated to service. As the call echoes through the room, it becomes impossible to ignore the permanence of the loss. This isn't temporary. This isn't a misunderstanding. This isn't a soap-style fake death. Derek is gone, and Fairmont Crest must somehow learn how to move forward without him. The emotional impact lingers long after the ceremony ends, because sometimes saying goodbye is the hardest thing of all. Danny lashes out at Bill. While Fairmont Crest gathered to honor Derek's memory, another emotional confrontation was brewing elsewhere in town. Danny had spent years biting her tongue when it came to certain chapters of her past, but Derek's death had a way of forcing people to reevaluate old wounds and unresolved regrets. Seeing life cut short so suddenly reminded her that some truths needed to be spoken while there was still time. That realization led her directly to Bill. What began as a simple conversation quickly transformed into one of the most uncomfortable exchanges the former couple had shared in years. Danny made it clear she had no interest in sugarcoating her feelings. According to her, Mike had always been a predator hiding behind wealth, influence, and professional success. While others looked the other way, Danny claimed she saw exactly who he was from the very beginning. Bill attempted to defend his longtime associate. He argued that Mike had flaws but insisted the situation was more complicated than Danny was making it sound. That only infuriated her further. Danny accused Bill of spending years excusing behavior that should never have been tolerated. She reminded him of countless moments when vulnerable women were placed in impossible situations while powerful men protected one another. The conversation became even more painful when Naomi's name entered the discussion. Danny argued that the environment Bill helped create ultimately contributed to Naomi wanting nothing to do with his law office. According to Danny, Naomi recognized dangers that Bill refused to acknowledge. Bill visibly struggled as Danny continued. For perhaps the first time in a very long time, he found himself unable to counter her arguments. The guilt was written all over his face. Danny wasn't interested in winning an argument. She wanted accountability. She wanted Bill to understand that his silence over the years had consequences. As their confrontation ended, Bill was left standing alone with thoughts he clearly wasn't prepared to face. And judging by the look on his face, Danny's words would continue echoing in his mind long after she walked away. Bill and Ted reflect on their biggest regrets. Later at the country club, Bill crossed paths with Ted. Normally, conversations between the two men revolved around business, family updates, or social events around Fairmont Crest. This time felt different. Both men were carrying the weight of recent events. Derek's death had reminded everyone how fragile life could be. As the discussion unfolded, Bill and Ted found themselves reflecting on the mistakes that shaped their lives. The topic quickly shifted toward the Dupree family. Neither man could deny the enormous role the family had played in their lives over the years. For Ted, the wounds surrounding Nicole remained painfully fresh. For Bill, his fractured relationship with Danny and the growing distance between himself and some of his children continued to haunt him. There was a rare vulnerability in the conversation. Both men acknowledged that success, power, and money meant very little when compared to family. But he admitted there were moments he wished he could relive. Bill quietly agreed. Unfortunately, neither man possessed the ability to rewrite history. All they could do was live with the consequences. Whether either of them has truly learned from those mistakes remains another question entirely. Chelsea and Madison face wedding turbulence. Elsewhere, wedding preparations took an unexpected turn. Chelsea and Madison had been enjoying a relatively peaceful stretch compared to the chaos unfolding elsewhere in Fairmont Crest. That peace didn't last long. The discussion started innocently enough when Chelsea asked how Madison planned to handle her complicated family situation during the wedding. The answer caught her completely off guard. Madison revealed she was considering inviting her mother, Willow. The mere suggestion created immediate tension. Chelsea understood the emotional significance of wanting family present during such a major life milestone. At the same time, she couldn't ignore the risks. Inviting Willow could open the door to fresh conflict, emotional outbursts, and unnecessary drama on what should be one of the happiest days of their lives. The uncertainty surrounding the decision lingered between them. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only wedding-related disagreement waiting around the corner. When Danny arrived excited to discuss luxury wedding dress options, she expected enthusiasm. Instead, she received resistance. Chelsea and Madison had been considering a very different approach. Rather than embracing extravagant designer gowns, they wanted something simpler and more modern. The biggest shock came when Madison admitted she might purchase a dress off the rack. For Dani, this bordered on sacrilege. She couldn't understand why anyone would pass up an opportunity for custom couture. To her, weddings were meant to be grand. They were meant to be unforgettable. They were meant to make a statement. Chelsea, however, saw things differently. She wanted authenticity more than extravagance. The disagreement highlighted a growing divide between Dani's vision of the wedding and Chelsea's. Neither side was necessarily wrong, but finding common ground may prove more difficult than either woman anticipated. Nicole rejects Ted's surprise career move. At Garland Memorial, Nicole found herself blindsided. Ted arrived carrying what he clearly believed was fantastic news. Nicole didn't share his enthusiasm. Without consulting her first, Ted had approached the hospital board and suggested Nicole as a candidate for chief of staff. In his mind, it was a compliment. He believed Nicole possessed the leadership skills, intelligence, and respect necessary for the position. From his perspective, recommending her seemed completely logical. Nicole saw it very differently. She was stunned, then annoyed, then furious. Her immediate response left little room for interpretation. "Are you out of your mind?" The question hung in the air. Ted attempted to explain himself. He insisted his recommendation came from genuine admiration. He believed she deserved the opportunity. Nicole wasn't interested in hearing it. Her frustration stemmed less from the position itself and more from the fact that Ted had inserted himself into a major professional decision without speaking to her first. Once again, he had assumed he knew what was best. Once again, he had acted before consulting the person most affected. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Even after their divorce, Ted continued behaving as though he had a say in shaping Nicole's future. That realization only deepened her irritation. Their conversation quickly became tense, and then things became even more complicated. Kiel sees through Ted's motives. Just as Ted was defending his actions, Kiel arrived. The timing could not have been worse. Or perhaps it could not have been more revealing. After Ted eventually left, Kiel and Nicole discussed what had happened. Unlike Nicole, Kiel immediately recognized another possible explanation for Ted's behavior. According to him, the chief of staff recommendation wasn't entirely about Nicole's qualifications. It was also about proximity. Kiel suggested Ted wanted Nicole in a position that would keep her closely connected to him professionally. Whether Ted consciously realized it or not, a lingering feelings could be influencing his decisions. Nicole initially resisted the idea, yet she couldn't completely dismiss it. Ted's recent actions had often blurred the line between professional support and personal attachment. Despite his suspicions regarding Ted's motives, Kiel surprised Nicole by agreeing with the recommendation itself. He believed she would excel as chief of staff. He trusted her judgment. He respected her leadership abilities, and unlike Ted, he made it clear that whatever decision she ultimately made would be entirely hers. That distinction mattered a great deal. The conversation left Nicole with much to consider, not only about her career, but also about the complicated men occupying different corners of her heart. Joey begins to suspect something is wrong. Meanwhile, another storyline quietly continued, building momentum. For weeks, Haley had been carrying out her dangerous scheme against Bill. While those around him noticed occasional changes, nobody had fully connected the dots. That may finally be starting to change. Joey Armstrong has spent years surviving because he pays attention. He notices details others miss. He watches people carefully. And recently, Bill's behavior has begun raising red flags. The changes are subtle. A tremor here. A lapse in concentration there. Moments of physical weakness that seem increasingly difficult to explain away. Most people might dismiss them as stress. Joey isn't most people. His instincts tell him something isn't right. The more he observes Bill, the more concerned he becomes. What's particularly troubling is that Joey cannot yet identify the source of the problem. He only knows the symptoms are growing harder to ignore. As Fairmont Crest continues grieving Derek and adjusting to the fallout of the plasma ring investigation, a new crisis may already be developing behind the scenes. And if Joey is the first person to recognize the danger, the question becomes whether he can uncover the truth before it's too late. Because Bill Hamilton may be in far greater danger than anyone realizes. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe my channel without missing any update.